Hey there, grade 6. New video for you guys today. Concept that we're looking at is going to be comparing fractions using equivalent fractions, and hopefully by the end of this video, you will be able to compare fractions with different numerators and denominators. Also, we're going to get looking at mixed numbers, at improper fractions, and then the combination of the two. So we're going to kind of cover a bunch of things. Where we start is just a quick review of some fractions on a number line using this chart. And so we have this fraction strips. They're all same length kind of thing. Now we know that these represent quarters. If we're looking at missing fractions, I'll just change my color over here, maybe to black. So here's my 1/5. Now one of the things I should point out as I'm finishing that is that these are cumulative, right? And so if I go 1/5 and then another fifth, that line here brings me to 2/5. This line would be 3/5, right? If I go over to this line, that would be 3/4. So they are cumulative. So what we're going to get a chance to do is just look at the fraction chart and just try and figure out, let's say, a fraction that is less than 1/3. And so here's our 1/3 line. And so we're looking here and here. So we see that 1/4 and 1/5 are both less than 1/3. The next one we look at is something greater than 2/3. So there's our 2/3 line. I'll just erase the other line for a sec. There's our 2/3 line. And so we need something greater, right? So we're looking at this line and this line, which is 3/4 and then 4/5. Both of those numbers are larger than 2/3. And then lastly, they're asking for a range, right? So they're looking for something that's between 1/2, which is right here, and then 2/3, which is right here. So we're looking for something like this line, which is for 3/5. That is a fraction that comes on this chart between 1/2 and 2/3. And so what we're going to get a chance to do now is move on to comparing fractions that have the same denominator. And so what we can see is when the fractions have the same denominator, the fraction with the greater numerator is more. So we would say then that 3/4 is larger than 2/4, 4/5 is bigger, again because the numerator is bigger. So then a little bit extra practice. Okay, look for the larger numerator, that's this guy, and then larger numerator is this guy, right? So where we go from there is we start looking at two fractions that have different denominators. Now, the nice thing about this one is that if we had a drawing, if we had a little pictorial representation, something like this, we could show how the first number 2/3 would be able to be divided into to look like the second one, right? And so if I multiply this fraction by a scale factor of 2, that's going to give me, and then I just draw on this line, right? That's going to give me this 2/3 here is going to become 4/3. Those are the equivalent, called equivalent fractions. And then I know that 4/6 is going to be less than 5/6. So I would say that 2/3 is less than 5/6. And so again, thinking about common denominators, right? And so if I'm trying to figure out, we're going to change this fraction so that it has the same denominator here, which means that I need to multiply 1/2 by a factor of 5 to give me 5/10. And then I can say that 5/10 is greater than, you use my inequality symbol, greater than 4/10, or 1/2 is greater than 4/10. Now what I'm going to get a chance to do is compare two fractions where the denominators are so different, we have to find just a common denominator. And so for 1/3 and then 2/5, I have to look at these two denominators and say, what's the lowest common denominator between those two numbers? And the answer in this case is 15, which means that I need to change this by a factor of 5. So that's going to give me 5/15. I need to change this by a factor of 3, because again, I want to change, 3 I said. Change it by a factor of 3 because I want both numbers to have a denominator that is the same number, so 15 and 15. And so what I see here then is that this one is larger, so I could say that 1/3 is less than 2/5. So again, I need to change these again by a scale factor so that they have the same denominator. And between 2 and 5, the lowest common denominator is 10, so this gets changed by a factor of 5. And this gets changed by a factor of 2, right? And so that's going to give me 5/10 versus 2/10, which means this guy's bigger. Again, I know that between 3 and 5, common denominator is 15, so change it by a factor of 5. So that's going to be 10 over 15. This gets changed by a factor of 3, which is going to give me 9 over 15, which means that 2/3 is bigger than 3/5. Right, and then again, inequality symbols. You're welcome to do that on your own real quick. If you would like, again, common denominator between 3 and 5 is 15, and between 3 and 4 is 12. So you can pause it and then do those real quick. You'll find out that 4/5 is bigger, and then 1/3 is bigger. Where we move from there is that this not only works with regular fractions, or proper fractions, I guess, where the denominator is bigger than the numerator, but in improper fractions, again, we're trying to make the denominators the same. So between 2 and 3, common denominator 6. That means that this has to change by a scale factor of 3. So that's going to give me 15 over 6. And this will change by a factor of 2, which is going to give me 16 over 6. And then I can see then that 5/2 is less than 8/3. So again, using an inequality symbol, the common denominator between 3 and 7 is 21. So for my 5/3, it's got to change by a factor of 7. So that's going to give me 35 over 21. And then 10 over 7 is going to have to change by a factor of 5. So that's going to give me 50 over 35. And then I don't know what I was just doing there. Sorry, guys. Let me try that again. I need to get to 21, not 35. So 10 over 7 changes by a factor of 3. So that's going to give me 30 over 21, which means then that 5/3 is greater than 10/7 because the equivalent fraction here is larger. It's got a larger numerator than over here. Sorry about that. Moving on. Now we're looking at mixed numbers. That's the next logical step. We started with improper fractions. We move on to mixed numbers. This one's pretty straightforward. The whole numbers are very different. You have 4 and 2. 4 1/3 I would put right about here, probably on the number line. And then 2 6/7 I'd probably put right about there. They're just estimates, but you can clearly see that 4 1/3 is larger. What gets a little more challenging is when the whole number is the same, what we have to do is now compare the fraction part of those two numbers. And so same deal, we have to figure out common denominator, which in this case between 5 and 7 is 35. And so this has to change by a factor of 7, which is going to give us 14 over 35. And this is going to change by a factor of 5, which is going to give us 20 over 35. So if I compare 3 and 14 over 35, that is going to be less than 3 and 20 over 25. And again, if the whole number is the same, just find common denominators for the fraction parts. So then they want us to use inequality symbols. And so again, this one's kind of nice. It's clearly 1 7/9 is less because the whole numbers are quite different. Here, whole numbers are the same. And so I got to find the common denominator between 5 and 20. In this case, it's nice. It's actually just 20. So this is going to be changing by a factor of 4. So that's going to give me 4 and 12 over 20. Now notice this. These two are actually equal. So that's the inequality symbol that I would use. Just say that 4 and 3 over 5 is equal to 4 and 12 over 20. So the last thing that we need to do is now compare an improper fraction over here with a mixed number. There are two ways that you can do this. You can convert your mixed number into an improper fraction. And you can do that, we've talked in the video about a couple different ways. You can ultimately, the quick math way is multiply the whole number times the denominator, which is 15, add 2 to that, which gives us 17 over 5. Then we have to find common denominators. The second way you can do this is converting this to a mixed number, which in this case is probably the quicker way. And so we take our numerator, which is 14, we divide it by 3. That's going to give us 4, remainder 2. And so I can use those numbers to now create my mixed number, which is 4 2/3. And again, because the whole number is quite a bit different, it's easy to see that this one, 14 over 3, is larger than 3 2/5. Again, inequality symbols, we're going to convert or compare the mixed number and improper fraction. So this one, 4 goes into 9. It's 2 times with a quarter left over. Easy to see that this one's larger. This one, 5 goes into 12. 2 times with 2/5 left over. So now the whole number here is the same, and I should convert to a equivalent fraction over 15 between, so that's between 3 and 5. So that means that this has to change by a scale factor of 3, and this needs to change by a scale factor of 5. So I'm actually going to move over here. I'm going to end up comparing 2 and 6 over 15, and then 2 and 5 over 15. And when I do that, I see that this one, 12 over 5, is slightly larger than 2 1/3. So that's what I would say. So I hope that's been helpful. This is the practice in the workbook, 154 to 156. Work on it, have fun. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.